The stars stretched endlessly around the small human ship, dauntless silver pinpoints of light drifting in the dark. Captain Mara Klein sat in the bridge, her hands resting lightly on the controls, but her mind raced. Ahead was a planet no human had ever dared to land on. It was known in the galaxy as a death world. Its storms were deadly, its air toxic, its land jagged and merciless. And yet, the humans were going there, not to run, not to hide, but to face. Mara's crew watched her, tension thick in the air. Lieutenant Rami, her second-in-command, broke the silence. "Scans are unstable, Captain. Radiation is off the charts, storms stronger than anything recorded, and life signs. There are, things down there. Large, dangerous things." Mara nodded slowly. She had read the reports, memorized the warnings, studied the Deathworlders. The galaxy called them monsters, unstoppable killers that had crushed fleets and entire colonies. But humans did not stop. At warnings, humans did not accept defeat. They built ships to survive worlds like this and minds to solve problems no one else could. And today, they were carrying humanity's courage to the most dangerous planet in existence. "Prepare for descent," she said, her voice calm but strong. "This is not a rescue mission. We are not here to give aid. We are here to survive and prove we can face what others fear." The Dauntless shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Acid rains lashed against the hull, and lightning cracked the sky, illuminating jagged black mountains below. Mara gripped the edge of her chair as alarms screamed warnings about wind shear and radiation spikes. Below, shadows moved, hulking shapes that made the sensors scream. The Deathworlders were awake. They were enormous, with scales darker than night, claws that could tear through steel and eyes that burned like molten fire. Mara felt a thrill mixed with fear. The galaxy called these creatures monsters, but looking at them now, she felt awe. They were survivors, just like humans. They had endured a world that would kill anything weaker than steel and fire. And today, humans would meet them unafraid, carrying the dangerous promise of their own ingenuity. "Brace for landing," Rami said, voice tight but steady. "They're moving toward us." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Let them come. We do not cower. We do not beg. Humans never run from the impossible." The ship hit the surface with a violent tremor, sending ash and dust into the stormy sky. Outside, the Deathworlders paused, watching the strange newcomers. Plasma cannons hummed as the Dauntless defended itself, not to kill, but to show strength. Bolts of energy lit the acidic rain, scattering the creatures just enough to allow the humans to step out. Mara stepped forward, feeling the ground shake beneath her boots. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of fear, excitement, and determination. She looked at her crew, all tense but unbroken. "Today," she said, her voice strong, "we face what others could not. Today, we prove that humans belong everywhere, even here," a Deathworlder growled, a sound that vibrated through the air, shaking dust from the rocks. Its eyes were fixed on Mara, on the humans, as if measuring them, judging their courage. Mara did not falter. She met its gaze without fear. This was a dangerous world. These were dangerous creatures. But humans had something no other species had: courage in the face of impossible odds and the will to survive when everything else screamed death. And so, with the storm raging around them, with Deathworlders watching and the galaxy's fears pressing close, humans took their first steps onto the deadliest planet in the known universe. Not to beg for mercy, not to plead for survival, but to show the galaxy something it had never seen before: that humans, no matter the danger, never give up. Mara breathed in the acidic air through her mask and smiled. "Let them see us," she whispered. "Let them see what humans are made of." The Deathworlders circled the human landing site like shadows in a storm. Their massive claws tore into the black rock, leaving deep gouges that hissed as acid rain fell upon them. Lightning flashed across the sky, highlighting their muscular frames and glimmering eyes. Every instinct in Mara's body screamed danger, but she stood firm. Humans had faced death before, and they would not back down. "Captain," Rami said, his voice low, They're approaching closer. They're not attacking yet, just watching. Mara's heart pounded, a mix of fear and fascination. She had expected hostility, but this was something new. The Deathworlders were curious, cautious, like predators sizing up a creature they had never seen before. Humans were unpredictable, fragile, and yet here they were, stepping boldly into death itself. "Keep shields up," Mara ordered. "We show them we are strong, but we do not provoke unnecessarily." The crew nodded, fingers tightening on their consoles. The storm roared around them, but inside the Dauntless, there was focus, precision, and determination. Mara watched as one Deathworlder lifted its massive head, sniffing the air. It growled, a deep, resonating sound that made the ground tremble. Then, with a fluid motion that seemed impossible for its size, it took a step forward. "Steady," Mara whispered to herself. She could feel the weight of history pressing down. No human had survived long on this planet before. Yet here they were, alive, unbroken, daring to face what the galaxy said was impossible. A smaller Deathworlder approached the ship, its movements cautious. Its eyes, molten like liquid fire, studied the humans as though it could see their courage, their fear, their determination. Mara stepped out from the ship, boots sinking slightly into the jagged black rock. She raised her hand, not as a weapon, but as a sign of peace, of acknowledgement. "We come in strength," she said aloud, her voice steady despite the storm. "Not to beg, not to surrender. We are human, and we do not run." For a moment the creature paused, then it tilted its head, almost curious. It had never seen beings like this before, creatures fragile in body but relentless in spirit. Humans had a stubbornness that could not be measured in scales or strength. The Deathworlder's growl softened slightly, as if recognizing something it had not expected. "Captain," Rami said, They're not attacking yet. They seem cautious, almost aware of us." Mara's chest tightened with hope. This was the first real acknowledgement. The Deathworlders were dangerous, yes, but they were intelligent, and intelligence meant strategy, caution, and perhaps respect. Humans would need all of these in the coming hours. She signaled her crew to begin a careful survey. Data streamed, in mapping the creatures, their movements, their patterns. Every step they took was calculated, every signal interpreted. Humans were learning quickly, faster than anyone expected. A flash of lightning struck nearby, illuminating the largest Deathworlder yet. It roared, a sound so deep it shook the dauntless hull, but instead of charging it stopped, staring directly at Mara. In that moment something unspoken passed between them. The Deathworlder understood that these humans were different. Fragile, yes, but fearless. Dangerous, yes, but clever. Mara swallowed the lump in her throat. She had not come here to win a fight today. She had come to survive, to understand, to plant a seed of human presence in a world where none dared tread. And already, in this first tense contact, she felt the stirrings of something more, an uneasy respect forming between predator and human, a fragile connection that might decide the fate of the mission. The storm raged on, winds tearing at the black rocks and rain sizzling against armor. Yet in that chaos, Mara stood tall, her crew beside her and the Deathworlders watching. Humans were small, fragile, and yet unbroken, and for the first time, the galaxy's deadliest world seemed to pause and notice. Mara clenched her fists. "We are here to stay," she whispered, "and we will not be forgotten." And somewhere deep in the shadows, the Deathworlders seemed to acknowledge that, not with words, but with the weight of their gaze and the stillness that followed their growl. The first step toward understanding and toward human legend had been taken. The storm on the Deathworld raged harder than ever. Acid rain hissed against the hull of the Dauntless, and winds howled like 1,000 wild beasts. Mara Klein's boots sank slightly into the black, jagged soil as she moved, each step a battle against the violent gusts. The Deathworlders had surrounded them, circling with enormous claws, scratching the ground, eyes glowing like molten metal. For a moment, the humans stood frozen, feeling the full weight of the planet pressing down on them. Then the largest Deathworlder, its scales, glinting with rain, let out a roar so deep that the very air trembled. Its intent was clear: test these newcomers, challenge them, kill them if they faltered. Mara's heart pounded, but she refused to step back. "Steady," she whispered to her crew. "Remember, they expect fear. We give them strength." Rami nodded, activating the ship's defensive systems. Plasma cannons hummed and charged, casting light through the storm. This was no longer a moment of cautious observation. The Deathworlders were testing them, and humans were ready. The first Deathworlder lunged, claws slashing the air, sparks flying as it struck a defensive shield. The impact rattled the Dauntless, but it held firm. Mara's crew fired plasma rounds, not to kill immediately, but to protect themselves and assert presence. Humans were clever. They did not need to overpower the Deathworlders in raw strength. They used strategy, speed, and precision. Another Deathworlder tried to flank them, its massive frame moving with terrifying agility. Mara's team anticipated it, redirecting energy to the shields, creating a barrier between the Mans and the Predators. Each movement was calculated, each shot deliberate. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were unpredictable. And unpredictability was dangerous. Mara took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline surge through her veins. "We cannot show weakness," she said. "Every move counts, every heartbeat counts. We survive by being smarter, faster, braver." The largest Deathworlder roared again and charged directly at the humans. Mara held her ground, watching its eyes. They burned with curiosity, rage, and something almost like respect. She could see it measuring them, trying to decide if they were prey or something more. Suddenly, a flash of lightning struck a nearby ridge. The energy surged through the ground, and the humans saw the Deathworlders flinch, momentarily thrown off balance. Mara seized the moment. "Now, fire volleys to control their movement." Plasma blasts cut through the stormy air, forcing the Deathworlders to step back. The humans were not killing them, they were establishing dominance. This was a test, and they were passing it. Slowly, cautiously, the Deathworlders began to retreat, circling but not attacking outright. Mara's chest heaved with relief and pride. Her crew was battered, their armor scorched, but they had survived. They had faced death itself and had not faltered. The Deathworlders watched them silently now, still dangerous, still powerful, but no longer the untouchable monsters the galaxy had feared. Rami approached Mara, mud streaked across his uniform. "They respect us, or at least they recognize we are not easy prey." Mara nodded, feeling a strange connection to the alien creatures. They were monsters, yes, but intelligent, cunning, survivors. And humans. Humans were not just survivors. Humans thrived in impossible places. Humans fought not just for life, but for legacy. She looked across the battlefield, at her crew, and the creatures around them. Fear had been present, but it had been tempered by courage. Humans had faced what the galaxy had said was unbeatable, and they had endured. "This is only the beginning," Mara said softly. "We've proven we can survive, but we must earn their respect. We cannot falter, and we cannot show mercy where weakness is perceived. They will test us again, harder, and we must be ready." The storm continued to rage, but the humans stood tall. They had taken the first step in a war they had not started, a challenge they had chosen, and deep inside Mara felt a surge of emotion she had not expected. Pride, hope, and the unshakable certainty that humans, fragile and small, could face any monster and endure. The Deathworlders watched from the shadows, their glowing eyes never leaving the humans. The first clash was over, but the tension remained. Something had shifted. The humans were not prey. They were a force to be reckoned with. And in the heart of the storm, Mara whispered to herself, "Let them see who we are. Let them fear, respect, and remember humanity." The storm had not lessened. Acid rain splashed against the jagged rocks, and lightning tore the sky in jagged streaks. Yet on the blackened battlefield, the humans stood firm. They had survived the first clash with the Deathworlders, and for the first time the creatures seemed to pause, watching the newcomers with something more than hunger. Curiosity. Captain Mara Klein wiped the sweat and grime from her face, feeling the cold sting of rain against her cheeks. Around her, her crew moved with quiet precision, repairing shields, checking weapons, and preparing for what they knew would come next. Every human knew that this world did not forgive mistakes. Every human knew that even the smallest misstep could be fatal. Rami approached her, scanning the horizon. "They are not retreating," he said, "but they are observing. Something has changed. They recognize we are different." Mara nodded. "Yes," she said softly. "Humans are small. We are fragile, but we endure. We do not stop. That is our strength. They are learning it now." The largest Deathworlder stepped forward, massive claws sinking into the black soil. Its gaze was unblinking, measuring, as if trying to understand what made these creatures so fearless. Mara could see the intelligence behind the eyes. They were not mindless killers, they were survivors, and survivors respected strength. "Prepare the drones," Mara ordered. Tiny, sleek machines rose from the ship, buzzing and moving in patterns that tested the Deathworlders' reactions. The creatures responded instantly, dodging, circling, and analyzing. The humans were careful. Each move was deliberate, showing skill and control, not aggression but competence, not weakness but caution paired with power. A smaller Deathworlder stepped forward, sniffing the air around the drones. Mara took a step toward it, her boots sinking into the wet, jagged soil. "We do not fear you," she said aloud, her voice firm and steady. "We come to survive. We come to learn. And we come to show the galaxy what humanity can do." For a long moment, neither side moved. Rain drummed on armor, claws scraped against rock, and lightning lit the sky like the flash of 1,000 swords. Then, the smaller creature tilted its massive head and emitted a low growl, softer than before. Curiosity, Mara realized, was replacing aggression. Respect was forming in the storm. Her crew exhaled quietly. They were still cautious, but hope glimmered in their eyes. Humans had not just survived, they had made the impossible pause. The Deathworlders were reassessing them, measuring them not as prey but as potential equals. Rami leaned closer. "Captain, it's working. They're testing our reactions, not attacking. They are learning from us." Mara felt a surge of emotion she had not expected. Pride, yes, but something deeper. Connection. Humans were showing the galaxy that courage and intelligence could overcome even the deadliest odds. The Deathworlders might be monsters to everyone else, but here, humans had a chance to prove themselves as more than just fragile creatures. "We need to move carefully," Mara said, scanning the horizon. "We are not safe yet, but we are no longer just survivors. We are participants. We are a force to be recognized." Lightning flashed again, and the largest Deathworlder roared, shaking the black rocks. It advanced, but its steps were measured, cautious. The humans matched its gaze, refusing to flinch. In that silent standoff, something extraordinary happened. The impossible connection between predator and challenger began to form. Mutual understanding, raw respect, and unspoken acknowledgement of skill and willpower. Mara's chest swelled with determination. The galaxy had always underestimated humans, called them fragile, slow, weak. But here, on a planet where death itself ruled, humanity's true nature shone. Adaptable, clever, relentless, fearless when it mattered most. She looked at her crew, dirty, wet, and tired, yet unbroken. "We have made them notice us," she said softly, "and that is the first victory. The rest of this world will see who humans are soon enough." And somewhere in the shadows, the Deathworlders watched, their glowing eyes unblinking. The battle was not over, and the storm still raged, but the humans had carved a space for themselves in the deadliest world known. They had earned the first measure of respect. and that was more powerful than any weapon. Mara clenched her fists, staring into the darkness. We survive, we endure, and we will not be forgotten. The storm on the Death World showed no mercy. Lightning tore across the black sky, illuminating jagged peaks that seemed to pierce the clouds. Acid rain hissed and steamed as it struck the rock and armor, and the wind whipped the humans' cloaks like living shadows. The Dauntless stood battered but unbroken, and its crew was weary yet alive. Mara Klein scanned the horizon, feeling an unease that went deeper than the storm. The Deathworlders had retreated slightly, circling in cautious observation. But something was off. Their behavior had changed subtly. Smaller creatures had begun to move in patterns Mara hadn't seen before. Larger ones emitted low, almost deliberate growls. It was as if the planet itself had grown restless, testing the humans in ways no one could predict. Rami approached, eyes narrowed. "Captain, there's movement behind the ridge. It's not them. Something else." Mara's heart skipped. "Show me." The sensors revealed shadows among the black rocks, shapes that moved faster than any Deathworlder, moving in ways unnatural to the planet's known predators. Mara felt a chill crawl over her spine. The galaxy had warned humans about Deathworlders, but no report mentioned the hidden predators, creatures that lived in the storms and the jagged terrain, invisible until they struck. "We are not alone," Mara whispered. "The planet itself, it's hunting us." Rami's hand hovered over the controls. "They could overwhelm us in seconds. We need to act fast." Mara's mind raced. Humans had survived every challenge by thinking ahead, by turning danger into opportunity. Fear would not save them. Courage would. "Prepare the drones," she ordered. "We use strategy, not brute force. Let's show them why humans are different." The drones rose, buzzing and flashing through the storm, acting as both shield and lure. The hidden predators responded, immediately, slashing through the rain and shadow trying to strike at the humans. Mara's crew fired plasma in careful arcs, not to kill recklessly, but to protect themselves and guide the creatures away from the vulnerable landing site. Every shot counted. Every move mattered. One of the predators leapt at the Dauntless, its claws tearing at the hull. Sparks flew and alarms screamed, but the human team responded with precision. Rami activated the energy shields at maximum, deflecting the attack. Mara's heart pounded, but she did not falter. Humans thrived in impossible situations. The Deathworlders, sensing the new threat, begged, and to act differently. They moved in patterns Mara had not anticipated, circling the humans, blocking the hidden predators. It was strange. Two deadly forces, one helping the other, not out of kindness, but mutual self-interest. Humans watched and adapted. Every human instinct and every piece of training was pushed to the limit. Mara took a deep breath, yelling over the storm, "Do not panic. We survive because we are clever. Move together, control the battlefield, and strike when the opportunity comes." Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Lightning illuminated the chaos as humans, Deathworlders, and hidden predators clashed in a brutal dance of survival. Mara could see the fatigue in her crew. The mud streaked across faces, the cuts on armor, but no one faltered. Humans were fragile, yes, but they refused to break. Finally, the hidden predators retreated into the shadows from which they had come, recognizing that humans were not easy prey. Mara's chest heaved, dripping wet and exhausted, but her eyes burned with pride. Her crew had survived the storm, the Deathworlders' scrutiny, and now the planet's hidden dangers. Rami smiled grimly. They understand. We are not weak. We survive where others die." Mara nodded, looking out at the darkened horizon. The Deathworlders were still watching, silent but alert. Humans had passed another test. They had shown courage, intelligence, and endurance in the face of unimaginable danger. She placed a hand on the ship's railing, feeling the pulse of the world beneath her feet. "The galaxy thinks we are fragile. The galaxy thinks we are small. But here, where death rules everything, we have proven them wrong. This is only the beginning. They will remember us." and we will continue to survive, no matter the odds. Somewhere in the shadows, the Deathworlders observed silently. Something had shifted. Humans were no longer just interlopers. They were a force to reckon with. Clever, fearless, and unbroken. Mara's heart swelled with emotion. Pride, hope, and determination mingled in her chest. "We are human," she whispered, "and this planet will not break us." The storm on the Death World raged with unrelenting fury, but the humans were no longer merely surviving. They were beginning to take control. Captain Mara Klein stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, eyes scanning the chaotic landscape below. Lightning illuminated jagged rocks, massive Deathworlders, and the smaller, faster predators that had tested them before. But this time, the humans were ready. Rami stood beside her, his face streaked with mud and sweat, but determination shone in his eyes. "Captain, they're repositioning," he said. "The Deathworlders are watching, and they're reacting to us, not the storm." Mara nodded. "Good. That means they are learning. Humans survive because we adapt faster than anyone else. We control what we can, and we fight with our minds as much as with our weapons." The crew moved with precise coordination. Plasma cannons fired in arcs that herded the predators into traps, while drones flew in patterns that guided the Deathworlders' attention. Every movement was a calculated risk. Every action showed intelligence, courage, and strategy. The humans were no longer prey. They were masters of their battlefield. On the ground, Mara took a deep breath and stepped forward, her boots sinking into the jagged black soil. The Deathworlders approached, massive forms moving cautiously, their glowing eyes fixed on her. She did not flinch. Instead, she raised her hand, showing a stance of calm and authority. "We do not fear you," she said aloud. "We face what no one else will. We are humans, and we endure." The largest Deathworlder stepped closer, circling her slowly, testing her. Mara held its gaze, unbroken. There was no fear in her voice, no hesitation in her movement. The creature's growl softened, almost as if acknowledging the courage it saw. For the first time, a bond was forming, not of trust, but of recognition. Humans were not monsters, not prey. They were something the Deathworlders had never encountered. Unrelenting, fearless, clever. Rami called out from the bridge. "Captain, the smaller predators are regrouping, but the humans' formation is holding. They are hesitant. They're realizing we are not easy prey." Mara smiled grimly. "Good. Keep them off balance. Force them to understand that humans survive by thinking, by acting, by refusing to give up." Hours passed in a tense battle of wits and survival. The humans moved like a single organism, anticipating the creature's attacks and countering with precision. They used the terrain, the storm, and their technology to control every moment. Slowly, imperceptibly, the tide began to turn. The Deathworlders stopped advancing and started testing. The hidden predators retreated, recognizing that humans were not a threat to be ignored, but a force to respect. Mara felt pride swelling in her chest, mixed with exhaustion. "They are seeing us for who we really are," she said softly. "Not just fragile humans, survivors, fighters, a species that refuses to be broken." The largest Deathworlder crouched, its claws scraping the ground. It emitted a low, deep rumble, almost like communication. Mara took a cautious step forward. "We do not come to kill unnecessarily. We do not come to destroy. We come to survive, and to show the galaxy that humanity cannot be ignored." The creature's eyes met hers, and for a moment something extraordinary happened. It was as if the Deathworlder understood, not as a human would, but in its own way. Respect, recognition, a silent acknowledgement of courage and strength. The storm began to lose some of its fury, lightning becoming less frequent, winds slowing slightly. The Deathworlders stayed, observing, curious but cautious. The humans had passed another test, and in doing so, had carved a place for themselves in a world where no one dared survive. Rami exhaled, leaning against the console. Captain, they are watching, but they are not hostile. Not fully. Mara's eyes shone with a mixture of relief and pride. We have proven ourselves today. The galaxy underestimates humans, but here, on the deadliest planet, we are more than that. We are unstoppable when we refuse to surrender. She turned to her crew, wet, tired, and battered, yet unbroken. Remember this moment, she said softly. We have survived the storm, the Deathworlders, and the hidden predators. And we have shown that humans are not just survivors. We are legends in the making, and tomorrow we will show even more. And somewhere in the shadows, the Deathworlders remained, their glowing eyes unblinking. A bond had formed, silent but powerful. Humans had endured the impossible and had begun to earn recognition in the galaxy's deadliest world. Mara clenched her fists, feeling the fire of determination surge inside her. We survive, we endure, and we will not be forgotten. The storm on the Death World had begun to wane, though the air was still thick with acid mist and tension. The blackened, jagged rocks glistened under the fading lightning, and the Deathworlders stood in silent observation, massive forms poised yet restrained. For the first time, the humans felt that they were not merely intruders. They were part of this world now, challengers who had survived where no one else could. Captain Mara Klein stood at the edge of the landing site, boots sinking into the wet, jagged soil. Her crew surrounded her, dirty, exhausted, but unbroken. They had endured storms, monsters, hidden predators, and death itself. And through it all, they had stood tall. Rami approached her, scanning the horizon. Captain, they're not aggressive anymore. They seem aware, respectful. Mara allowed herself a small smile. Yes, she whispered. They see us now, not as prey, not as intruders, but as humans, survivors, fighters, unstoppable when we refuse to surrender. The largest Deathworlder stepped forward, the ground trembling under its weight. Its eyes, molten and burning, met Mara's gaze. She did not flinch. Slowly, it lowered its massive head, a silent gesture that humans instinctively understood as recognition, not friendship, not submission, but acknowledgement. The humans had passed the ultimate test. Mara felt a surge of pride and emotion. She thought of all the warnings, all the galaxy's fear, all the stories that said humans would never survive here. And yet, here they stood. Humans were fragile in appearance, yes, but unbreakable in spirit. Courage, intelligence, and relentless determination had carried them through the impossible. She turned to her crew. Look around you. The galaxy says we are weak. The galaxy says we cannot endure. But here, where death rules everything, we have proven them wrong. We have survived. We have fought. And we have been recognized for our strength. This is what humanity is, and the galaxy will remember it. The Deathworlders slowly retreated to the shadows, their glowing eyes following every human movement. Mara realized that this planet, this deadly world, had accepted them, not with words, not with gestures of kindness, but with respect earned in blood, courage, and intelligence. Humans had carved a place for themselves where no one dared tread. Rami exhaled, wiping rain from his face. Captain, we've done it. We've survived the impossible. Mara nodded, her gaze drifting across the storm-torn landscape. We have done more than survive. We have made history. And this is only the beginning. A gentle silence fell over the landing site. The storm had not fully passed, but it had changed. The wind no longer screamed with hostility. The rain no longer hissed with danger. The world itself seemed to acknowledge the humans' presence. Survivors of storms, conquerors of fear, they had proven something far greater than strength. They had shown the power of the human spirit. Mara felt tears prick her eyes, not from weakness, but from the overwhelming sense of pride, hope, and purpose. They had faced,